Hi, it's Jen here. I'm here to bring the tip of the week. This week's topic is about grief. Grief is a rough one for our texters because sometimes they're not understanding what they're feeling. And so I'm going to break it down on the different stages of grief for you guys so you might have a better understanding. According to dictionary.com, grief is described as keen mental suffering or distress over affliction or loss, sharp sorrow, or painful regret. That means that not all grief or grieving texters are necessarily grieving about a death, so we have to keep that in mind when we're talking with them. There are 7 stages of grief, and we're going to go over each stage and sort of what it means during that stage. But when a texter comes in regarding grief, they don't have to be going through the stage 1 through stage 7. They can be going to start out at stage 3, and then stage 1, and then stage 7. Whatever they're at in that moment, it's really about the texter, and it's about exploring on our end on where they're at and how we can best support them. The first stage of grief is shock and denial. What does this mean? It means that they are shocked and they're trying to protect their emotions. They're trying to avoid that pain that they're feeling. They are denying the reality of the loss. They're really not sure what is going on and how they're feeling. That's shock and denial. Stage 2, pain and guilt. As that shock wears off, it's generally replaced with an unbelievable amount of pain. Although it's excruciating and almost unbearable, it's important that they experience that pain fully and not to hide it, because oftentimes they'll dive into other coping skills like alcohol or drugs to try to numb that pain. Number 3, anger and bargaining. Frustration gives way to anger, and sometimes a texter may want to lash out to the family member or blame someone for the death. And it's important that they don't bottle up these feelings, because it can really damage a relationship that they have as a potential support in their lives. Stage 4, it's depression, reflection, and loneliness. Just as the support in the texter's life might feel that they're getting on with their lives, long periods of sadness and reflection, this can last a long time. There's no time frame on grief. And it's important not to be talked out of this stage. So we don't want to encourage them to not feel this. We want them to experience and know that it's okay and that it's normal. Validating those feelings and normalizing those feelings, because this is a crucial part of the stages of grief. During this time in stage 4, the texter may realize the magnitude of what's going on with this loss. They may want to isolate themselves or try to find their purpose in life, reflecting on what they've lost, and focusing on the past. And that can be a really empty feeling and a moment of despair. So it's important, again, that we validate and normalize their feelings at that point. Number 5. It's called the upward turn. Basically, the texter's life will be starting to adjust a little bit. They are realizing that they're no longer with that person that they have lost. They feel a little calmer. They're able to be a little bit more organized. And physically, they may feel that depression lift a little bit. Stage 6. Reconstruction and working through. What does this mean? It means they're becoming more functional. Their mind starts to work again, and seeking realistic solutions to things that life might bring on without that loved one in their life. This is more realistic problem solving, basically. They are reconstructing themselves. They're making a new self without having that loved one in their life. So it's a pretty huge stage. Stage 7, sort of the final stage. The texter will be feeling a little bit more hope and feeling the reality of their situation and finding that it's less and less painful to think about that that tragic experience that happened. This doesn't mean that the texter is going to go back to their carefree life that they had before this tragedy. It simply means that they're moving on. They're actually planning for the future. They don't have as much pain, like I said. They may be looking forward to things to come and accepting that that loved one isn't going to be there to celebrate. I pulled a couple of resources out of our referral data bank that I think will be really helpful for texters who are going through grief. The Dougy Center is a great program for children and adult families who've lost someone. As you can see, there's groups and supports and tip sheets that can be really beneficial for someone who has lost someone and learning to learn a little bit more about what's going on. The Once Center for Loss and Healing has a lot of great information about grief and what it means and ways to understand a little bit better. And then their resources, they have online web community services, and other ways and tips for professionals who are going through the grieving process. So there you have it, the 7 stages of grief. To be able to help a texter who may be grieving, exploring and really finding out where they're at in their process. Hopefully you learned a little something. If you have any questions, you can always comment on our network under the post. You can always reach out to your supervisor or your coach and know that we always have your back. So I will see you on the platform. No, that's not right. More working, and that is an important stage. Why do I keep saying you? If grieving lost one. Let's redo that one. All right. I'm going through grief. No. That was sucky. Oh my god, this is so hard.